Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Do you believe him?
So we just got back from the city, and we had a big meeting with them to discuss some major issues that would transform our site and
Transform our development project to the point of possible death.
Yes. You want my 10,000-foot perspective first?
Well, yeah. I guess when I said that question, I literally meant it because I was actually struck by one of the planners said. And they said, because it was a response to me, and one of the things I said during the meeting was, "Look, if we don't get a building permit by June, we're just gonna can the project."
I'm so glad you said that.
And we're just gonna sit on the land like we won't build it. We don't care if we don't build by then. If we don't have it by then, we are not going to do this project. I actually could not believe that the staff actually looked back at me and says, "Oh, well, we don't want that. We don't want that. We want you guys." I could not believe it.
I'm so glad you said that because honestly, we have to hold that in our pocket, and it's a real possibility. And I'm not even joking around about that. And that's how the city needs to see it too, because there's real consequences to these decisions in the process that happens. Overall, I thought,
what's your 10,000 footer?
Much to do about nothing.
Oh, good grief!
And
seriously, that's your okay?
This is why. This is
Why?
why. So one thing, they wanted us to move one of our buildings 20 feet, which wasn't going to work. That was one of the comments, right? So we went in and said, laid out a case for, what to do. And they heamed and hawed about it and basically, well, you have to give us all these criteria. And then we might recommend it up to the planning zone commission. And even if we don't recommend it, they might say yes. But, we might even want it to happen. We might even want it to happen. But if one little box isn't checked, we have to say disapprove. And I wanted to say that's gross. And that's a bad way of doing things. You guys should weight things. You should weight things. Not all criteria are equal.
Is life really this black and white?
Yep. But I didn't say that. And then it kept going. So then it came down later. I'm glad that other planner was in there. All of these might be moot in how many months? And I didn't say that's if the city gets their stuff done on time.
Oh, God. That would be relying on even just local government moving swiftly.
Exactly. And I almost wanted to jump in and say, who knows if they'll ever get that done on time. But then it all became, what was great about that guy saying, we probably won't have the commercial buffer. We probably won't have, this other stuff, was I felt the air in the room go so we can recommend this without feeling bad. That's what I felt. Because the landscape reviewer was still you could see in his eyes, he was still questioning what we wanted to do. And the main building official was still saying, process. And he asked this guy, are these going to be an issue in a couple months? He goes, these are probably going away. And I could just feel the tension release. That was my perspective. Was instead of them doing their normal, we have to be extremely anal. They might. But I could see them even backhand talking to the staff this is, we'll just prove it, or else they're just going to wait 2 months. And then who knows? Maybe they'll sue us for gross negligence. I don't know. Maybe we will. Because they told us there was no setback there multiple times when they're.
Oh, yeah. So let me fill everybody in on more detailed. So Alex has, I think, 2 emails or 1 email?
2 emails.
2 emails.
And an in-person conversation.
Yeah, so 2 emails plus an in-person conversation, which holds very little weight, but where he's asking a planner, will this work? Is there any other buffers we need to comply with? And he goes, no.
Yep.
And I mean just a simple N-O.
And then also, am I correct that this is the only buffer on this side? Yes.
So when Alex brought that up in the meeting, one of the things I was hoping that they would come out of it is that they would have some self-ownership and see that they were completely dead wrong and they made a mistake and own up to it. And they did. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that they go, I'm sorry. Yep, we just can't catch everything.
But they said, but it doesn't matter. They said, I'm sorry, which was great. And, that let out some tension. But it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what other cities do. We can only do what the code says. And I wanted to yell, gross again. What your job is your job is just reading stuff and not even interpreting and just writing it down? And it just like saying yes or no?
What are they afraid of, do you think?
I have no idea.
Like, what is the repercussion if they start going a little bit rogue? What is the issue?
By other developers saying this person did this, and then having to answer and having to actual think. And we did not get enough time for me to go full depth whatsoever. Because think about this scenario, and we experienced it during the recession. Everything flew through, all permits flew through.
It was amazing.
None of those buildings have fallen down whatsoever. Everything is safe and everything is fine. When the market gets hot and prices are too hot, things should fly through because, one, you have too much to do, and then two, if you're building more, that will bring down the price, which what the city wants is actual competition. We live in a capitalistic society. We are okay with having competition, me and you, if more developers get through.
Absolutely.
We're fine with that. Principled people, right?
Yep.
But instead, the opposite happens. They slow down when it gets busy, which means, and I think they get overwhelmed. So they turn off their brain and they just go checklist, check, and they don't actually think because there's too much to do. And instead of saying instead of getting the word from the top, like, hey guys, everything's hitting, prices are going too high, we're going to lose our middle class and our lower class. We need to be more efficient and focus on priorities. Because somehow during the recession, they hint hey, let's hurry this stuff up so we can get our money in. Somehow that's being communicated.
Well, no, exactly. There you go. I think you just hit the nail on the head, right? That's the only way they have a financial incentive is because they need their theft money, right? They got to get that money. They got to get the money from the people.
And right now, when they have a bunch of theft money coming in, they don't care how long it takes. Honestly.
No, I know.
This is deep dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is psycho history.
Psycho history.
That's a reference for people.
Yep. So Alex went through. So he gave him a. Unfortunately, we missed probably 5 or 10 minutes of recording because the stupid camera overheated.
Really?
Yep. How much did you pay for that camera? Too much is the answer.
Okay. $300.
Why would you overheat?
I'm looking at our tech guy right now, and he's looking at me. This is a live version. Everyone's listening in. He didn't buy the camera, but I still want to blame him. He'll probably figure out a solution.
I think it happened when Mari did our interview or whatever too. She had it she had to shut it off or otherwise it overheats. I think this is the problem with digital cameras.
I think you're right.
that are recording. So anyway, that's a side story. But so we brought a camera and they were awfully suspicious.
Ooh, they were not happy about that.
They were not happy about it at all. You could tell that they felt threatened by it 100%.
And the announcement in the room was not by us. We told them that we are recording it because we had to. And then there was an announcement that if anyone objects, I will tell them to turn it off. And I waited because I was going to interject, but I was patient because no one objected. And I was going to say, it doesn't matter if you object. It is our right to record this. You can object all you want and tell us to turn it off. Legally, we checked with our lawyer.
This is a public service.
Yeah.
This is a public building. Are you kidding me? Yeah, absolutely.
So I didn't have to say that.
You were going to say that though.
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was going to say.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was kind of surprised that I figured that they would be okay with recording, but
that
they
tone,
were nervous, man.
I will tell them. To turn it off.
Definitely. And then they wanted to control the meeting. Right from the beginning, I was like, "Oh God, if I have to get angry right away, this is not the way to start the meeting."
So they said, we'll do introductions and then we'll bring up our concerns. And then if we have time for your presentation or whatever you want to do, we'll see if we can do it.
And this is a presentation that Alex has worked on for how many man hours? 8 minimum?
No, at least 2 days, maybe
2 days.
More.
2 days. Again,
2.5.
We are not getting paid for this stuff.
Yep. So I had to interject then and say, my presentation touches on the points that we think are pertinent to our project. And since it's our project, I think we have a better view about what's going to affect our site or not. And then he kind of looked around. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I can't believe that they wanted to just sit there and dictate to us.
I can. Important points. I can, and I think this is an important lesson. This is an important piece of advice for anybody who's, even if you're going to go into a city and you're going to try to build a single family home, is you're in control. You're the one paying all this money. You're the one doing that. They're supposed to serve you. So just you don't allow them to do that. I don't care even if it would have rejected a meeting. If they would have said, well, we're not having this meeting. Great, we're going up the ladder now. Now we're going straight to the mayor instead, and we'll wait until. Even if that makes us so like we don't even build a project, fine. As people of principle, screw you guys. Then you guys can cancel the meeting. We're gonna ask for another. We're gonna keep going. Then we're gonna go to the paper. Like you keep escalating it and going up the chain.
Yep. And as much as like there was those points of possible escalation, I think literally after that one planner said most of this is gonna go away, it came towards what are the solutions? What are the solutions? So, don't you feel like that? And then it was still why I say much to do about nothing is because there's no like clear answer. They're still gonna like nitpick and do weird stuff, but the vibe changed, and that's why I'm happy.
So yeah, so then Alex said, nope. He basically had to convince him. Nope, we're gonna do our presentation. We are going to address point by point exactly the issues, okay? And we're going to go through them. And then they said, okay, great. So then they did. So he went through, gave him a context, and then presented some solutions to these major issues that came up. And then at some point, that's what that guy had to say is that the zoning was going to change. Here's what I think is going to happen once the zoning changes. Then the economy is going to crash, and that zoning doesn't even matter because nobody's going to be building.
Well, no, what's also crazy about that too is that. I felt the meeting was good too because there was the main planner and the other guy, and I think that they're heavy-handed into what these zonings are, and I think they're going to look into the zoning and probably say if it was on the fence of whether they should eliminate that buffer or not, it should be off the fence because the buffer is between,
like that. Our project will tip them in that direction.
Yep, it's between in mixed use, in commercial. Well, they should have it in commercial too because this is commercial zoning. Who knows if they'll look that deep? Maybe I'll email them and just say, hey, if it's between mixed multifamily and commercial, that's a mixed use zone in itself. You know, like right there, the in between. God, I could see them not addressing that because what if ours doesn't get zoned as mixed use?
Oh, when they do this blanket zoning,
and what if I don't know if it stays as commercial, right? So here, it might tip them to make sure that they don't have it. Because then I said, if you think about any mixed use, you have commercial right next to multifamily. It doesn't matter. They're right on top of each other. They're right to the side of each other. You know. But now I don't know if they'll think to apply that to commercial or if ours will change to mixed use.
What did they?
There's always a rabbit hole.
So the parking was solved? Or not? I didn't understand where that landed. Like, oh no, because wasn't one of the comments? Oh no, I made that comment about the parking because you can count the parking underneath the buildings as off street.
Yes.
What?
Yes. So somehow garage parking counts as off street parking.
So that means we don't have a parking problem anymore.
I don't think we have a parking problem anymore.
Oh, that was huge.
Yeah,
and then if you do the landscaping as suggested with the bike racks, right?
Yep.
Like the additional bike racks.
Bike racks don't matter anymore
because you can somehow count the parking underneath. So why even make that comment then?
Why make that? Oh,
honestly, that's what I'm asking you. I don't understand. You have to put it in context for me. Like why? What was the comment made for? Just to like
the comment was to make sure so that we say yes. The garages that are attached to the units will be sold with the units. Which is
you're kidding me,
right?
Can you read it back?
Yep, I will. But here's the other thing: like, why? It was only an hour, and I didn't even get to go into depth. Like, I've sat and watched a plan reviewer from a building reviewer, not a plan reviewer, review drawings. Right. First thing he does is he scales out the drawings. Now I don't, like he'll take a dimension on there and scale the drawings. Now. All the scales will be right. He doesn't need to worry about a single scale whatsoever. And then he'll double check the area, and then he'll look at connections and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there with him. We're talking through it. He's like, "Oh,
this you did this?
Yep,
huh?
Yep." So what they're looking at is, can I find the information? And is that information
The building
correct?
the building official.
Yep.
Versus a planning
The
official.
planning official, there's a table where everything's there, and then just the title, like the title is there. And they say, change like the name of this title and move this over here. Like, oh, is the information there? Why are we moving stuff? You know, what is going on here? So you asked, why did they have to say that? Why do they have to say a lot of stuff?
But what was the comment? What is the comment as it relates to exactly that? Because that's what I wasn't clear about.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
A minimum of 18 parking spaces are required for the 8 multifamily units. For the commercial unit, a maximum of 5 are permitted. This is based on the code requirements of no more than 4 parking spaces allowed per 1,000 square feet of commercial office space.
So what's the minimum?
No, it's so crazy. That's the maximum. If you do a commercial office space, isn't it 1 person per 100 square feet? Or is it, no, 200. 200.
Mm-hmm.
So 4. So they just reduced it a little bit instead of...
So you have 1 per 250?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given the amount of required residential parking, 18, and the maximum allowed commercial, 5, the grand total is 23. That's the total.
That's
the
the
grand
max.
total.
That's the max you could have. Yeah.
Yes.
But not the minimum. I'm looking for minimum here. Do you see what I'm after?
Yeah. A total of 22 parking spaces are being requested. So 1 less. Garages may count towards the minimum residential parking requirement if the garage is included as part of the sale or lease of the residential unit.
How would it not be?
See this code. So they give us the code. I'll have to look it up. If all garages are included in the sale or lease of the residential units, then the parking is compliant and the sitting parking code, and no exceptions or variances will be needed. Please confirm that the garage parking is included in the sale or lease of the unit.
I mean, I guess I could see somebody making a really stupid decision and going, we're only going to sell you the upper floor, the upper 2 floors, and the rooftop deck. But where has that ever happened? Like, what kind of la land of a developer is doing that? He's just wanting that main floor for himself, huh? Just so he can open the garage and walk in.
Man, I want to find this.
So that means we're good with parking.
Well, it's that, I'm telling you, to me that was so unclear because we were talking about off-street parking or exterior parking. All I know is that in the meeting that's recorded, everyone came to the conclusion that even if we lose 2 parking spots, we're all good.
That's what I'm asking you. You aren't clear, though? It's fair if you're not. I'm just wondering.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because I asked if there is a buffer on the west side 3 times and got to... You can see what keeps me up at night.
Oh, good grief. Good grief.
Yeah.
So to sum up the where we're at with the biggest thing is still trying to figure out this 20-foot landscape buffer solution or not or whatever, right?
And I have to find and read through what their requirements are for if you're going to do, want to change something.
If we're going to go for the variance.
Yeah. And I know I have that somewhere, but I'll have to find it. If you want to pause, I can find it and read over it.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay.
All right, let's go deep. Additional review criteria for variance, right? So all variance applications shall be reviewed for compliance with the following review criteria. A, special circumstances exist that are exceptional to the subject property and do not apply generally to similarly situated property in the same zoning district or neighborhood. I would say in that neighborhood, there's not a commercial lot that's small.
I don't think there is either. And one that's... what other infill site is there? That's the critical component is...
Such that strict application of the zoning or development regulations adopted in this development code would result in undue hardship. I would say that.
Yep. That we meet that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then
small size.
Yeah, too small, and it's an infill site. It's an infill site that's already built, and like you said on the east side of the property, we suffer because we have an undue hardship because of our neighbors have already built to it, and we don't have the ability to, like, if we all developed at the same time and worked together, well, that would have been a different story. But we're at the tail end of it.
Yep.
So we are having to deal with the tail end of their decisions.
Yep. Okay. I goes, well, number one then. I is number one. Special circumstances include but are not limited to exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property, or exceptional topographic conditions of such property. Or two. So we'll just have to see what they say. In determining practical difficulty, could we also say like difficulty dealing with two different scenarios on each side? Like a multifamily on one side and then a commercial on the other side.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's different requirements for both. Thus, while you might think that this lot is normal size, taking in those considerations, it's not.
It's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Different on each.
Yeah.
Okay, so then here are the criterias. So do we have to comply with all of these?
Every single one, Al, that checklist.
A.
Otherwise, you're just they said they can't. We have to recommend it. We have to. We're going to run it up the chain.
We got to not recommend it. Whether the property in question, considered within the context of the entire development, will yield a reasonable return and therefore can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. Oh.
What?
So if without the variance, could you yield a reasonable return?
Like profit-wise?
Yeah. I'd say price. Yeah. So somehow we have to say no.
Okay.
And then what do we do? Do a cost analysis of determining every different scenario without the variance? Or oh yeah, we here we go. We can't flip it to the other side because then drainage and other things would be an issue. Thus, we would have to take out the commercial thing, which would make this worth $0
because you couldn't build it.
Yeah. The degree to which the variance deviates from the otherwise applicable standard. So then I would say then this is where you argue the purpose of the buffer.
It's for screening.
Buffer. Yep. So, and then say we can screen and meet that purpose.
With our alternative solution.
Meet that buffer. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or the surrounding properties would suffer. They would not suffer. They would increase in value.
100%. Just so everybody knows, the duplex to the west of us, is it a duplex, quadplex?
No. It's multifamily. There's like 6-8 units in there.
6 units. It's your average patio style, 1980s development.
Whether the applicant purchased the property with knowledge of the regulation. I'm going to list those emails.
Exactly. Yep. And I think that's critical. So what we did is, I think we went under contract, and then we got on the land, and then we had a meeting with the city right away, and then we followed up with some other emails and correspondence before we closed, and we asked about the big red flags. They said there were no big red flags, and Alex has it written. So if you're ever doing this, good Lord, get just everything in writing.
Whether the applicant problem can be resolved feasibly through some other design, through other methods other than the variance. So there's two other methods. Flip, and we have to convince them that that's no good. Or make the 20 foot and make our building 5 foot wide.
There you go. I don't even think you say, I think you lead with, well, maybe you do start with flip. Maybe you do start with the flipping, and you say, look, we have to, and then maybe you reference the previous comments where you say, while it is possible that we could potentially flip the building this late in the process after predicating our whole, we just make up a number, $170,000, whatever it took to get to this point. would make it financially unfeasible to continue the project, to transform the project in that way. I think there's a case there where you have to say, look, we have all this time and energy and money in it so far based on the preliminary yes and no's that we got in those other emails. If we flipped it at this point, the extra design costs and time to carry the land and do all that stuff makes it so that the project is not profitable whatsoever. So at this point, it's not feasible.
And then also, I would say it's a worse design solution, because then you're having all the best units facing very tightly of the shitty view.
Yeah. You have to bring that up again too. Yeah, but they only have like 5 feet or something like that.
Yep.
And yeah, most of what they face is
terribleness.
It's just they're really close to that terrible adjacent property.
Here's my question: when I don't think this hit, I thought it would hit too. When I brought up the larger context that it's better to have our more open space, and
I think the diagrams. Well, you just came to that conclusion today. Yeah. So once we do this, I think that's we have to have a better diagram. That's all.
Okay. But do you think that, so you don't think that what I'm saying is that we have one short building and one tall building. And then across the street, they have one short building and one tall building. And the way we have it, the open spaces connect.
Yes.
So if we flip the building, it would kind of cut off this like urban plaza scenario. I don't think anyone cared about that.
I don't think they cared about it either. I'm saying, yeah, I'm not sure it was presented in the way where it could have been more. There could have had more of an impact.
Okay. Yeah. If I would have diagrammed it, put the circle around, and then shown the alternative and said like,
and I'm talking about like maybe it's like a foreground background type of urban planning image. You know what I'm talking about, where you show like black and black, and this is the white, and then you show a big green. Like, look, we are trying to communicate with the next development.
Yeah,
we're literally making a huge urban design gesture. For people to interact with each other.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
But then you do. I think you still have to say like, yeah. If then, what is the other what is the other solution? Oh, we do the 20-foot buffer, and then we have a 5-foot wide building. You have to say, we have to show how absurd that would be.
Yeah. Whether the spirit and intent behind the regulation would be observed and substantially justice be done by granting the variance. So that one's a definite yes.
Say that again.
Whether the spirit and intent behind the regulation. So the spirit and intent is to buffer.
Yeah.
So we will buffer between their nothingness of building and ours by the two main criteria that could be applicable: sound and aesthetics, right? So we up the aesthetics by the design, and we can show that. We up the aesthetics by actually planting the required amount of plants. And then the sound buffer, it's a regular office, so it won't be what they were probably considering when they thought about this regulation. And we can up the sound transmission of that wall.
I still don't say we change that. I don't think we change the elevation. I think we do the sound transmission, and I think we do that shrubbery, and we're good.
The elevation is good. I have to. It's a better solution. It's not going to... You don't think it's better? It's way better.
That commercial building's perfect.
We'll have Ross do it. We'll have the guys vote. I'm telling you.
I don't like democracy. It's mob rule.
Wait. So yeah, it would work either way. Whatever the mob says, they're the mob. Relief in form of the variance shall not have an effect or nullifying or impairing the intent or purpose of the regulations of the of the Longmont codes. So no, the intent and purpose is kept.
Sure, and we're enhancing it. I would say. Yeah. I mean, right? You think that does? I don't even know how the engineering would work on that. We don't have the same conditions. We just finished.
Okay, the decision will not grant a variance that creates a safety hazard.
No safety hazard.
One that imposes a self-imposed hardship.
Well, here's where I think we say again, we are the only infill site in this area. We're the only one. To the north, they're already built. To the south, they're already built. To the east, to the west. So everybody else has already imposed their design intent on us. It's already built. It's already done.
Yep.
So we're trying to work within this confined area. There's nothing self-imposed about it other than we decided to buy the land and see if we can produce something decent.
Yep. And then I'd say, I don't know if they'll buy this, is that our pro forma worked when we could have this many units, and we doubled and triple checked that we could do it. So the undue hardship was not on ourselves. It financially only works this way. And it was on them.
What do you mean it was on them?
Do we have a buffer? Do we have a buffer?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. How many are left?
The 2 more. Shall not grant a variance reducing the size of lot or exceeding the density limits. Nope.
We're well within the density limits.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not asking for more units. I mean, I would love more units. So you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
Dude, if we could just do 10, I'd retire.
The variance may allow only the least deviation that will afford relief.
Say it again.
Will only allow the least deviation from the regulations that will afford relief.
Yeah, all we want to do is plant more damn trees.
And the other thing too is that like the nature of this building is residential. So we're not, if the spirit is to go from commercial to buffer commercial, the nature of the building itself is residential. The sound has already been taken care of and the aesthetics have already been taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if we do what you're saying and we actually change that elevation a little bit.
Yeah.
Fair
and
enough.
that's where, the nature of it.
I think the hinge point will be, well, you guys could just flip it. Nope, we can't just flip it. We can't just flip it because of these reasons. We're trying to provide the best. People live in houses. People spend most of their time in their houses. Everybody likes to say, like, wow, you affect the most people if you design big buildings. Not really. They're only there 9 to 5, right? You live in your house. You're there more often, right? So I think residential architecture, you can argue all day long about it. It's more meaningful in the design and the intent and what happens at the end, right? Mm-hmm. So that whole idea where you said, yeah, if we flip it, okay, great. Now they have a 5-foot buffer and they have to look at this. They look at this terrible side. We are minimizing the amount of units that have to look at what we consider kind of a crappy piece of architecture.
Yeah,
there's no way around saying. There's no other way to say that.
And it's that side because that side has 2 little dinky windows. You know, it's not. I'm not, and you're not. Making fun of the whole project. There's open space in the front.
Yeah, the south and the north are fine, but like imagine a row
literally
house.
Side of a building.
Just the side of a building with like 2 windows. That's all it is, and a chimney. Yeah. So
it comes down to what they want to say. That's why it's like much to do about nothing, because we could go through this whole process. They could say no, and then the new zoning codes the next day could say yes.
And then I know. And then at that point, like I said during the meeting, if we're not building soon, we're done. Yeah. And I couldn't believe they go, well, we don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't want that. I could not believe that.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if they're worried about like going to the press and, you know, like, well, there you go. This is the problem. Here's where it at. Gaslight. Yeah. Guys, do you have any questions? No? You're good? You heard the whole thing?
Good.
Awesome. Cool. We don't have any Nick's read this week. Lance is going on a little tiny mini vacation because his family's coming down tomorrow and the next day.
Yep.
Do you have anything else to add? Ask.
There's a bright side to everything.
You should see his face right now. For everybody's Al looks a little tired. It looks like you need a beer.
Ooh.
Did this drive you to any beer?
I almost wanted to drink last night, but I held strong. So keep rooting for me.
Good for you. So what's next? How about this?
So honestly, let's talk about it. You need to be on the not the egress, but the easement part. And then
so what we had an additional meeting after the big meeting, and what we met with one of the civil engineers from the city and then the landscape consultant that they have and who comments on landscape buffers and all this wonderful trees. And the civil brought up a couple of things, but one big thing was the way we're draining off of our site. Instead of doing a sheet drain, I don't know why we're doing it the way we are. It is what it is at this point. It actually does make it's probably the cheapest way to do it. He'd have to tell me. I don't know why. I think we just said make it work, right? I don't know where.
We wanted things that we were concerned about height restrictions, and then also the if you build up a retaining wall, we would have had to move back what we thought, and it was a total foreign concept to them.
Oh, yeah. Tell them about this.
So in a lot of places, if you build a retaining wall that's up on your property, however high it is, you need to move it back that amount. So in case it falls down.
It can't fall on a neighbor.
Can't fall on a neighbor.
Yeah.
They were like, what? No, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah.
So
But
then other places don't care, if
the site triangle.
the site triangle.
What are we doing with our lives? So I have to get with now the adjacent neighbors, who we're good. We're in good spirits with and all that. We've met both of them, and so I have to see if they're open to a drainage easement because they're worried about how we're spilling onto the adjacent property again.
And if we can only do it with the multifamily one, because there's a hill. If you go out to that site, it's basically only going to go on there. So if we can only deal with one person, I'd rather only deal with one person.
Right. There is a hill. I don't think it would go into the bank property.
Nope. So,
Yeah. So maybe just start with the multifamily
Yep.
guy.
Yep.
Gal. He was even at the original meeting.
But
And
again, it's very iffy because what if he just says like, "Oh, you're gonna pour all this water to where
Sally plays.
where the trash is," and if people, come, so maybe we have to. I think you're gonna have to do a plan, and maybe we have to turn it a little bit or something. I don't know, so it doesn't go where there, and it basically just goes down their driveway hill, and it's water, so whatever.
It doesn't even rain that much in Colorado.
No, besides today.
Yeah. So I got to do that. What do you got to do?
So I need to set up a meeting with the civils and the city, and then
Please let me. I need to be a part of that. I want to
Yeah.
know about these fire lines.
yep, and then after that, I think everyone should be on the task of just responding to comments. Landscape, we're not going to move landscape.
But we have to add some landscape, right? You're going to have the landscape put these new trees in, right? And stuff.
Yep. And then we got to come up with a solution. What do you think the best solution is? To make I thought it'd be cool, honestly, if we had like a 3-foot split face CMU and then put those on top of there.
You got to ask the landscape if they can grow in that, and the roots won't bust out of it. That's my only concern. Is that.
Yeah. Because the guy there didn't give us any indication.
I like just the pure screening. All it
Tall.
is, just tall. I actually think it would complement the building, and it would.
Should we do permeable there too?
Permeable right next to
Siding. Sidewalk. I think so. So that water can get down to those roots.
Yeah, they needed that to happen. Yep. Because why, we have a sidewalk on that side?
Sidewalk right there. Of course, you got to get back to those other duplex.
Because that's technically where their front door is,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's what we got to do. If we sound deflated, we are.
All right.
Okay.
Signing off, I guess.
That's pretty much. If you liked what you heard today,
Yeah, please give us 5 stars. We love you.
we'll be in a better mood next week.
Facebook, Twitter.
All that.